He cleaned up, he beat Joshua, he beat Fury, and he beat Wilder.
This feels like I'm collecting a name for a distant time and maybe a check rather than collecting a legacy.
Just want to see fights being scored correctly because I've been a fighter and I know what it's like. Boxing's one of the only sports where the event's finished and we still don't know who the winner is.
How do we know that that senior judge is correct?
That's Frazer's limitations. They're showing his limitations because he shouldn't be allowed to be dragged into a fight like that.
The advice I was hearing in the corner was ridiculous.
I thought it was an impressive performance. I thought he went out there and, established himself.
Are you having him?
I'm having him, I'm just not having him just yet. But that's fine, that's normal.
I'm going to lick that, but that's a different conversation entirely. Welcome to episode 149 of Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan, Spencer Oliver and Paul Smith. Today we're joined by the brilliant Adam Catterall. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Fellas, how are we all? I'm going to ask that as if I'm really interested, but let's go with that.
We're fine, mate. How are you?
Good. Nice to see everybody. Look,
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Why does he boost his seat?
Because
No, that's wrong, mate.
he's vertically challenged.
That's wrong. See, you're misjudging it because I've got short legs but a very long body.
Ah, right.
So,
Apologies,
there
mate.
you go.
Apologies.
There we go.
Boosted
For that
his
wonderful
ball,
insight and what Spencer does with his chair. Listen, someone we haven't heard much of recently has just broken his silence. He's over in Thailand talking at a WBC event. The person I'm talking about is Oleksandr Usyk. Let's have a listen to what Oleksandr says before we comment on it.
I won't fight with Deontay Wilder. For me, I think it's interesting.
Why Deontay Wilder? Because people are saying maybe he's not as good as he was.
This is world champion guy, this is very famous guy, this is strong guy, but it's Odin is one of is great heavyweight last 10 years. Mama too, but I say, Mama, I love you, but it's my work. Not just work, it's love work. Because I feel when I say myself, Alex, enough.
Okay.
I feel, hey, Alex, you win all belts. Okay, for what? I wanna work because I love this.
Let's move past the interviewing style of the sort of Joey Barton, Steve McLaren genre of talking to people, and look at what Oleksandr Usyk said. I don't think anybody saw that coming as a potential opponent.
No, but totally understand it, if I'm honest. Because I think that Oleksandr Usyk has achieved everything you can achieve in boxing. You know, two-time undisputed world heavyweight champion, undisputed cruiserweight champion. And he's thinking now in years to come when people look back on this modern era and he has to box Deontay Wilder, who has played a massive part in this era of boxing. And victory over Deontay Wilder would have cleaned up this era. So I totally understand it. And at the stage that he's at right now, Oleksandr Usyk, 38 years of age, and he could sail off into the sunset and go down as one of the greatest to ever do it. But I think adding Deontay Wilder's name to that list, when people look back on it, in, let's say 20 years' time, and you're talking about, great heavyweight champions, that's what it'll be remembered for. Not that Deontay Wilder is a shot false, which he is, by the way, but they won't remember.
Do you think
that
he's being serious,
to come.
Paul? I mean, ultimately, we now look at Deontay Wilder through the prism of a rearview mirror in terms of once upon a time he was the most feared in terms of punch power, not in terms of technical ability, but in terms of punch power. Do you think he's being serious in what he says there?
I think that the key thing to take from that interview is, and what you got to detract from that, is that he's saying, I love it, and that's his attitude. My brother Callum always mentions Usyk and how he is and his temperament and his attitude, and he did a video or a post recently saying, it's not motivation, it's discipline, and that's him. Now, I think he's looking at that thinking, for whatever I've got left, I'm going to make sure to make the most of it and squeeze out it rather than probably sitting on the sidelines. And
economically, you mean?
He's got that bit of hindsight, what I wish a lot of us had when we were all fighting, because you're a long time retired, and I tell young fighters that all the time. Economically as well, Sam, exactly. What's the easiest way he can make a good few quid out of it by going beating, with all due respect, a shot and shell of himself version of Deontay Wilder. Now, no one really remembers. They do with Berbick, let's say, against Ali, but leaving Leon Spinks at the end. Ali was past his best, but Leon Spinks, we all speak about Leon Spinks that he beat Muhammad Ali, and that's all this will be. He cleaned up, he beat Tyson, he beat Joshua, he beat Fury, and he beat Wilder.
Are you surprised, Adam, that it's taken him this amount of time to start talking publicly about the next raft of opportunities or fights that he may or may not want to have?
No, not really. I think he's earned the right to take his time. He's a bit of a unicorn, is Oleksandr Usyk in the heavyweight division, and that's kind of how I'm treating him now. He's given me everything that I wanted from him. He gave me 2 against Joshua, he gave me 2 against Fury, he gave me 2 against Dubois, and he delivered. And now I think he's earned the right to maybe take a little bit of time and make decisions for him, as Paul's just alluded to there. There's a slight bit of disappointment, if I'm honest, with the length of time that he took, because obviously that kind of affected the fight between Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley. And I think every fighter deserves the right to hear Anu in the ring rather than via email or text or however that came for Fabio. I also, in that interview, which parts of it wasn't played there, I watched it all yesterday, and he was talking about the Wardley, whether he would fight Wardley or not, or whether he would actually favour a Parker fight, is what he was referring to.
We'll get into that. Let's leave that in part for a second, because I want to evaluate that in isolation, because I've got my own views on that as well. But are you surprised? Because one of the things that really strikes me about Usyk is the integrity and nobility of the way he operates. He fights the best fights. He gives credit to those that merit credits. And I don't just mean after the fight where he talks to fighters about the next step with Daniel Dubois, but the way he attributed so much of his success to Anthony Joshua and the fight that Anthony Joshua gave to him, which catapulted him from a potential cruiserweight champion becoming a heavyweight to a bankable star, not to the level of AJ and Tyson Fury, but notwithstanding that. Are you surprised that this Wilder assertion is not in keeping with what Oleksandr Usyk represents? He gives fighters the best fights, he takes the best fights, he gets paid well for them because he's worth it, but this feels like I'm collecting a name for a distant time and maybe a check rather than collecting a legacy by beating all that's best around me and then leaving before maybe Moses Atoma arrives in serious nick.
I think it is off kilter from what we've experienced with Oleksandr Usyk in the past, but I think he's kind of earned that right a little bit in order to now, as Paul's just said there, to take fights that not necessarily suit him. I'm treating him like a unicorn, that he's kind of out of the picture now. I know that he holds 3 of those championship belts still, but there's a lot of top quality competition underneath him. You've just mentioned, obviously, one of those names. You've still got Daniel Dubois, you've got Fabio Wardley as a belt holder, you've got Jalalov who's knocking about, you've got Torres Jr. over. I think them all in a pot fighting each other kind of makes a lot of sense for the heavyweight division, whereas Usyk's kind of completed the game a little bit. He's the final boss. Yeah. He's over there. And if they come out and one of those is absolutely categorically the next best guy, I fully anticipate Oleksandr Usyk to give an opportunity to that next generation.
Well, like Catterall.
Well, sorry, I did mention Catterall's name there, but yeah, Catterall's in that conversation as well.
He's sort of done that though with Daniel Dubois, didn't he? Because Daniel Dubois is that next generation, you know, and he gave him the opportunity when a lot of people were saying, you know, this is the young kid and he's coming with momentum now and this might be too much for Oleksandr Usyk. Those questions were there.
Like we're all saying, it doesn't go on forever. Keep on going back to the well, giving the next guy the opportunity. At some point, he's going to move on into a different direction. Usyk was on the stage talking about the 3 belts rather than the 4 and how this was temporary, which I didn't quite understand. But let's have a little listen to him talking about the decision to vacate the WBO.
Because I win this belt, yeah? If we, when I say, hey, listen, you must protect WC belt, I say, I can do it, but not now, because, listen, I have very hard 1.5 years with Tyson Fury, 2 fights, and prepare for fight and Daniel Dubois win. I say, я не проти.
I don't mind.
I don't mind, but I do it, but not now. Listen, this is like sport and business. If win Parker, for me, it's interesting. Win Wardley. For me, not interesting. I say it's true. Okay, give you belt, boxing. Maybe later we fight together, like a big fight. It's only my mind.
Spence, there's 2 aspects of that. I mean, it's interesting that he talks about the fact that Parker would have been of interest to him. It makes me wonder why he didn't announce that he would fight Parker in maybe the new year, and then Parker wouldn't have taken the Wardley fight, and everyone might have been able to hold off, and the fight might have been able to be made for the WBO belt. And I don't know whether that chronologically could have worked. So that's the first part that I've sort of put out there as a placeholder. The second part is his lack of interest in fighting Fabio Wardley. What do you take from that?
I think at this stage of the game, look, I think that Joseph Parker had that resume, didn't he, with the likes of Deontay Wilder on there. So it was a more recognisable name and a fight that he felt that he could win, and he probably would have won when you look at it. So you go, that's a good fight for him.
But what I'm saying, he could have thrown Joseph Parker a bone by saying, I'll fight you for the WBO belt. The fight can't be made until the new year. Then Parker wouldn't have taken the Wardley fight, and he'd be fighting Parker for the fight that he thought he wanted to fight anyway.
Understood, but then he probably just wanted to let it play out for him, stop him. Otherwise, he stops earning money, doesn't he? And it's a fight that probably even Oleksandr Usyk felt that Joseph Parker would beat Fabio Wardley. Joseph Parker was a big favourite going into that one.
He was.
And I think that with Fabio Wardley, you look at the fight now, and from Oleksandr Usyk's side, he's looking at it going, this guy is potentially a dangerous guy.
I mean, I know there's a legacy-damaging position here because people still think Fabio Wardley is not at the level that Usyk's at. So if he went in there and beat Usyk, but Usyk boys would back himself to beat Fabio Wardley, wouldn't he?
I'm not saying that he wouldn't back himself. What I'm saying is that he'd want him to get more. He'd want to establish himself a little bit more, like get himself a bit more recognition.
Fabio?
I'm saying Fabio, yeah, like from Oleksandr Usyk's side, he'd say, well, look, he's not really bringing anything to the table. What could potentially be a dangerous fight?
I think Usyk's looking at that thinking like,
too easy.
It's beneath me. And with all due respect,
that's
exactly what I'm saying. Heavyweight champion of the world against the fella that started in my collar. Now, I'm not criticising or slagging Fabio at all. He's done unbelievable to get where he's get, but Joseph Parker's a name. Joseph Parker's been a heavyweight champion of the world. I'll fight him, no problem. But I'll give that belt up for that because he hasn't earned the right to fight against the two-time undisputed champion of the world. That's probably how Usyk's looking at it. I think the fact that he went back and beat Dubois was just, again, not slagging Dubois off to Usyk. It's an easy fight to just get a few.
But he was also a belt holder
and win me belt back what I had and become a two-time.
And there was a negative
champion
narrative for the first fight, wasn't there, with the logo and all this stuff. So he just went back.
It's just easy to clear all that up and beat him easy because, with all due respect, I'm levels above Dubois. That's probably what Usyk's thinking. And now he's earned the rest, I think, and he's going to make a choice to come back.
It's a tragedy for Fabio Wardley because Fabio has to battle against perception all the time. He's diminished virtually in every single fight that he goes into. And Fabio Wardley now, with due respect, in the same way that Daniel Dubois should have been given. The fight he had with Hrgović should have been for the belt rather than being awarding it, and he didn't go into the fight with Anthony Joshua as any kind of A side. He had to walk into the ring as the defending champion first.
Yeah.
So he got diminished there. Wardley wins what ultimately should have been the fight for the belt, which because Usyk didn't help them by vacating the belt before the fight, so they could have fought for that belt.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of irony attached
the WBO could have grown a set though, because they ordered the fight with Parker. And they gave him a period of time of leeway, didn't they? And Usyk said that he'd had a bad back or whatever it may be, and then they pushed that down for another 30 days, and then there was another reordering, and then they gave him a little bit more of a leeway. They could have grown a set and said, listen, right, are you doing it or you're not doing it? Give us the belt back. Let's make this for a proper title fight where Joseph Parker defends the championship against Fabio Wardley, and therefore somebody in that fight would have been.
And I know you love the subject on the sanctioning bodies, but the WBO have been a bit unpredictable recently. They're calling purse bids for Callum Smith's interim.
Right.
Yeah,
world title. Like, when have you ever heard of purse bids for a mandatory challenger for the interim title? Especially when the world champion is still very much active.
Are you surprised, Paul, that Usyk, because I felt there was a possibility, for what my opinion's worth, that he might sail off into the sunset after beating Daniel Dubois, beating him so convincingly, and a rather unique Usyk performance because he was so aggressive in that fight and so assertive from the outset, that might have been his swan song. Done Joshua, done Dubois, done Fury, done deal. Are you surprised he hasn't sailed off into the sunset, Paul?
Yeah and no. Yeah, I am, because as he just said there, I still love the game. He's still loving it. So I get that, and I get why he wants to squeeze that out of his potential-wise. But again, you can relate to this a lot more than I can. It doesn't matter how much money you've got like he's got. If you can make it quick for 50 million quid, 40 million quid, you're going to take it, because that's... no,
I'm just laughing at a quick 50 million quid.
But that's literally what it is. To get in there and beat Deontay Wilder or Dubois, which he's done twice, Fury, which he did twice, and AJ, to him, he had plenty more in the tank there. He's proven that he's the best. So a fight, with all due respect, against Deontay Wilder in the state that he's in, is going to be the easiest night he's probably had in a long time.
That's my point when you're talking about modern eras. You go, there's a big name missing off that era when we fast forward 20 years and you look at it and you go, Deontay Wilder's not on that resume. You know, he's just ticking a box for virtually no risk at all. So it's like, from a business side point of view and a commercial point of view, really, Deontay Wilder versus Fabio Wardley. Fabio Wardley's a live one, and he's a dangerous fight. Deontay Wilder is a no-risk fight with
Simon
probably
made
an easier selling.
Before as well, though, on it. Like, it's not in his nature to do what he's doing. But as you've just said, it just ticks a lot of boxes, and people might not remember in 20 years' time that Wilder was shot and at the end and finished. So I think that listen, he could do it, and I'd probably forgive him apart from fail a drug test, because he's Usyk and he's great, and he's a role model, a perfect role model for everyone. He's proven everyone, he's beat everyone. He has. But I can allow him this because of what he's done. In my opinion, I've got no problem with it.
Stage of the career that he's at, you're probably looking at another 12 months. Yeah, I know that he says he's going to go on and he's going to fight into his 40s and whatnot. He's 38 now, and he might be going, look, I beat Deontay Wilder, another tick, and then I sit there and see what it is. Do I really want to risk everything against someone like Moses Atama? Probably not. Fabio Wardley's going to keep improving as well. His name's going to fall into that bracket.
What do we think in our mind's eye would be the ideal I mean, we all admire Usyk incredibly. I mean, I've picked against Usyk in every fight. It doesn't mean I don't admire him. Maybe because my heart's gone above my head at times because I wanted Daniel to win, I wanted Anthony to win, and I wanted Tyson to win, despite some of Tyson's boorish behaviour at the time. But the fact of the matter is we have a 12 months in front of us. What would we like to see that 12 months look like with Oleksandr Usyk fighting whom and when? Okay, if Deontay Wilder takes care of itself and we get that fight, which I'm not particularly wedded to, but let's just say it happens. Who would we like to see, Adam? Who could we imagine seeing that Usyk fighting in terms of, you're quite good at wish lists and putting things together in terms of what you think they should be. Who would you like to see on that?
Well, I mentioned a little earlier the names of the runners and riders that are underneath him. Let's have a few of those guys fight each other over the next 6 to 7, 8 months. Somebody's going to rise out of that pack, who then people are going, maybe he can, maybe that's the guy. Maybe it is Fabio Woodley. Maybe it is Moses Atama. Maybe Daniel Dubois comes again and looks and smashes a lot of them. Maybe it's one of the American guys like Richard Torres Jr. Who knows who it's going to be? Maybe it's Caballel.
Yeah. Jake Paul.
We'll get to him.
Maybe. But I would love, listen, I've no problem, like Paul just said. Let Oleksandr Usyk have his fun fight with Deontay Wilder, make a few quid and have that legacy tick off. His final fight, if you can do it in the Ukraine, that would be absolutely sensational for him. And against a legitimate, who is the best of the rest
who comes out of the pack?
Caballel for me right
Listen,
now.
and I think so too. The interesting thing is there is a school of thought. We just talked there, Paul just mentioned the idea that you can go make a quick 40, 50 million quid. Where's that 40 or 50 million quid going to come from? Because there's a debate being had now that the Saudis are no longer at the front of driving the price point to a level that's almost unsustainable. Well, it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable because it doesn't make economic sense. It makes economic sense to them because it's for their blueprint and their modelling and so on and so forth, and it's about vanity play and a creation of awareness. I mean, do we think, Adam, that the Saudis are losing their lustre economically? I think that some of the promoters think there's a correction now. It's coming now.
Yeah.
And that's potentially dangerous for the sport because if people's expectations have been raised and it's no longer there anymore, you're going to stop seeing fights again. Do you think there's a jeopardy that the Saudis are no longer going to dance this dance and put that kind of dough on the table to create these kind of outcomes?
I think there has to be some type of realignment because it is unsustainable, as you've just pointed out, and people's expectations of the type of purses that they can demand has gone absolutely through the roof. At some point, it's got to start returning. And it's going to be interesting this next 12 to 18 months period. I mean, the noise from Turkey al-Sheikh is that he's in. This is what we're doing. We're going in this direction, and you've got to take him at face value.
There's a report in the New York Times, wasn't there? An article written about the danger that it has to boxing, this inflated price point, and subsequently the loss of appetite from the Saudis. I'm not sure I agree with it. I think that ultimately boxing goes through peaks and troughs. And they compared it to the HBO generation where everything was elevated and all of a sudden HBO disappeared off the scene and boxing was left a little bit desolate.
Can I, in my opinion of it, I managed a Saudi fighter. I've been over there. I was one of the first to go over there when Callum boxed against George Groves in 2019, 2018. That was before tourism was open. We all needed visas to get in there, proper pages in your passport. And it was sort of the old regime, as they called it, where it wasn't getting as modernised or as westernised as it is now. And it's a great place when you go there. We've all been there on this side of the table, and it's a nice place, and it's evolved massively, and tourism in the country is important. Now, if they've got a budget of £1 billion there, and they need to put that in advertising to promote Saudi as a country for visitors and tourists to come, why not spend a lot of that on boxing and put great fights on? Bring them in that way. But then once they're in, you don't need to spend as much on it because they're in. The tourists are in. I saw the stats recently. There's millions visiting
Of course,
Saudi.
and they want to build a free port.
So, and that's what it was for in the end.
Of course it was.
For me, it was never going to last anyway at that level. Not that it could, but it was never.
The challenge is what the legacy of it is, because everybody knows
it's what that does to boxing now, isn't it?
It's a legacy it leaves behind, because ultimately it creates a false economy in the space, and all of a sudden boxers and fighters and circumstances begin to look at things differently. It was always about building Neon City. It was always about Agadir. It was always about ultimately looking at a free port and becoming an industrial powerhouse in the Middle East. We all know what it was about, and we all know that boxing was probably the easiest sport to do it in, because you couldn't do it in golf because it was too much governance. You can't do it in football because it's a global sport and too big, but you can do it in boxing because it's the Wild West.
And it's easier to stage fights anywhere, whereas a team has the home grounds, as everything else, like it's easier to stage a fight somewhere else. But now that's done, even if there's not another penny thrown in now and you wipe their hands with it, if we look back on boxing in 10, 15 years' time, what a period that was. Them fights were being made, and it was down to that money why them fights were being made.
Absolutely.
Turkey denies those reports, by the way. He says that it is sustainable and they are going to continue paying that money. So we just have to see how
their version of sustainable is very different to most people's version of it, because their model is very different. But will be fascinating to see. Let's move on to one of the fights of last weekend, and probably the one that was most focused on, albeit we've got to talk about Ben Whittaker's fight, but was the heavyweight fight between Frazer Clarke and Jeamie TKV for the British title. We know obviously Jeamie TKV won the fight and was delighted with himself, and he was in the studio yesterday talking to us about his win and how much the belt meant to him. What did you make of the fight, Spence?
I didn't mind the fight, to be honest. It was a tough fight. It was a grueling fight. Yeah, the styles didn't connect, but Jeamie TKV is that guy that likes to make it ugly, likes to make it rough. We saw that against David Adelaide before he got knocked out. He was turning it around a little bit because he's very hard, unpredictable, but I think for Frazer Clarke, he fell into the trap. He fell into Jamie's fight. He was trying to force it all the time. He started getting caught. That 11th round, he done well. Credit to him for getting through that 11th round, and the 12th, actually, because he was out on his feet. Frazer Clarke fought the wrong fight, maybe showed his limitations, if I'm totally honest, because, I think before the first Fabio Wardley fight, we said, is Frazer going to be able to make those adjustments? Did he stay amateur too long? He seemed to be a little bit one-dimensional, a little bit one-paced. And we sort of saw that there against Jeamie TKV, taking nothing away from Jeamie, because I thought that he fought the perfect fight. He made it ugly, but that's the way that he fights, and he's very effective. For Frazer Clarke, it's a tough one. You go, where does he go from here? That's the big question. How does he bounce back from this?
What did you think of the scoring, Spence? There's lots of things about the fight that I didn't like, for what my opinion's worth. I didn't like the fight itself. I didn't like the fact he came out after the 12th round. And I damn sure didn't like the scoring from Terry O'Connor. Come on, let's go, boys.
The scoring, 115-112 in favour of Clarke from Terry O'Connor was an absolute disgrace. Steve Gray had it 115-113 in favour of TKV, and Bob Williams 115-112. You go, well, I can sort of see that, or that's about as close as I can see it. Otherwise, it was wider for me. I think TKV was winning the rounds, and like I said, it was not a particularly attractive fight to watch, but I still think...
Steve Gray's give a shade round there, and the bottom one...
You can understand a couple of swing rounds.
8 rounds to 4 with the point off. With the point off, which is probably what I had to like, but I didn't
Where's Terry going with that? Like, maybe... I'll tell you where he needs to go, Specsavers, because he was way out with that one.
He shouldn't be anywhere near judging fights no longer in the UK, man. He's consistently put. In fact, he's not on his own. The level of judging at times in fights that we watch and we are privy to be a part of here at talkSPORT, it baffles me at times. What are some of these people watching?
Can I throw you a score, right? So Terry O'Connor, when he judged Tyson Fury versus John McDermott, he was the referee in that one, and he had it 98-92 in favour of Tyson Fury. That was a fight that John McDermott won quite clearly as well. That wasn't a close fight. For me, I think I had it 8 rounds to 4 in that fight.
What's going on in it? Is it competence? Is it bias? What is it? No one want to say?
Look, I'm one of the first to defend judges and referees, and I know half of them will probably can't stand me because I always try and tell the truth and I always say my opinion. I'm fine with that. If you like me, great. If you don't, no problem. I've got nothing against any of them personally. I just want to see fights being scored correctly, because I've been a fighter and I know what it's like. And you're training your ass off for 12 weeks longer. You do 12 years sometimes.
Absolutely
you
right.
get in there and then 3 fellas who are sitting around the ring and you don't know the credentials. You don't know what makes them qualified to judge. You don't know how many fights they've done or what. But they're in charge of your destiny by, I think he won that round. And Boxing's one of the only sports where the event's finished and we still don't know who the winner is.
But why are we getting it so wrong
Do you want to say
lately?
it?
I mean, lately,
It is tough to do, though. I've got to defend him sometimes. It is a tough job to do.
The problem is, right, you have no unified scoring criteria. You've got the WBA, they've got their rules. This is how we score a fight. You've got the WBC, this is how we score a fight. You've got the British Boxing Board of Control, this is how we score a fight. Regarding the training...
Do these judges bounce around?
Yeah, but they bounce around all over the place. So therefore, I bet you, when you fought, nobody's come in your dressing room and said, this is what we're looking for today, boys. These are the rules today. This is how we're scoring this fight.
So shouldn't judges stay with the sanctioning bodies?
They absolutely should, right? But this is another thing. Regarding the British Boxing Board of Control, this is how they train their judges. So a new judge comes in and they're going through the processes. What they've got, they sit there, ringside, not actually judging the fight, but they're in the crowd there, they're judging it and they're going along. And then they put their card in, right? They put their card in. And the way that they then progress through the system is if their card matches the card of the judge that is ringside.
The senior judge that's overseeing.
How do we know that that senior judge is correct? You're saying, well, right, well, I've done it and it's same as Terry's. You must be a good one then.
So the
come
selection
on, man.
criteria is wrong from the outset?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but along them lines as well, what frustrates me the most is I would love to see them answerable to the media and they could clear so much up with one thing. And I remember Steve Gray doing it was a knockdown in the Catterall fight and it wasn't a knockdown and he rightly called it and I said, how did you know? And he said it was the way he fell. And I thought, that's experience.
The difficulty with that is that the only time you ever drug judges in front of the media is when they've done something wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
You're not going to judge them for doing something good.
I agree.
And this is another thing.
What we have to add, I'm sorry to interrupt you, what we
carry on.
have is, we have Robert Smith will come out and go, well, 8 of his 12 rounds were in coherence with the other judges. And like that doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them right, but that's how they look at it and they view it. And the board will always defend the judges and say, well, I thought it was the same myself.
This is another thing that grinds my gears. Maybe you boys have got an opinion on this, right? Refereeing and judging are two separate skill sets.
Totally.
Just because you're a good referee doesn't make you a good judge.
Correct.
I agree.
What we should have is people designated specifically,
Absolutely.
I am a referee. I am a judge.
Absolutely right.
And you absolutely shouldn't be having a referee judging the fight at the same time. As we saw at the weekend in Molly's fight and in the fight that we'll get to later on.
Anywhere else. That
Should
was
never.
in the UK.
Be specific with judging, be specific with refereeing. Do not have them. For example,
Agreed.
You'd have a referee, he might have a stinker here, he's back judging the fight, the next fight, and then his head's all over the place.
That frustrates me.
That's absolutely right.
A judge can have a stinker and he's on the next
That must
fight.
be about resource and availability of talent. And we all know that the British Boxing Board of
We've just
Control
been speaking about how much money's in this sport.
I know, but it's not finding its way into places like the British Boxing Board of Control, is it, to some extent? Well, you think it is, I guess, because you've got the ump about various things in terms of fines and those people, yeah. Despite all of that, TKV got the result and the right result in the end. Let's have a listen to him talking to myself and Jim yesterday.
Look, I was in fight mode, you know. Anything could have lit me up a little bit, but it was all about mind games. I know Frazer, and I don't know if you guys watched the first presser. We kept it cool because me and him are cool. There was no issues, but I knew I had to go in there and play mind games, and I played mind games, and he did not expect that. So it was a lot of mind games.
You think that played a part in the speed at which he came out of the blocks?
100%, because I set that tone and said that he couldn't do this, he couldn't do that. And then he tried to make a point, he tried to prove himself. I've never seen Frazer Clarke rattled the way he was rattled. Like, he was upset, he really wanted to make a point more, wanted to make a statement, wanted to get me out of there in the first round. So he came out steaming, out of the block, steaming at me. And that's when I knew the mind games worked, you know. Despite everyone being worried,
you played the patient game.
Yeah, I made sure I was patient, but once I got back to the corner, my team were happy with that. They said, he's thrown the kitchen sink at you. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Sorry about the interjection of Martin Keown there. That's an Arsenal player that's probably going to win the league from Liverpool. Paul?
Yeah, Everton as well.
Do you think that TKV is right, that he got into Frazer's head? I saw them in the studio, right, and irritated TKV during a break. And he was very uptight, very tense, very much in fight mode. Frazer was very clever, very relaxed, very condescending, getting a rise out of TKV, very comfortable and very self-assured. Yet he comes out in the first round very quick, which TKV alludes to the fact is, we got you in your head. Do you agree with that?
No, and I'm not trying to put Jeamie TKV down, by the way, he's done great. I think it was the other way around. I thought Frazer was winning the man games in here. I thought Jeamie TKV was trying to stand up.
So did I.
Yeah. But on the night, I just think, again, I'm not slagging it, saying off too much. I haven't really had much positive to say about it in the past. I just think the tactics were terrible. I don't know why he started that fast.
Yeah.
I don't know why he put it on TKV that fast. That fight,
is that because he's a home fighter?
All day written all over it.
Jeamie TKV, actually, what he was saying there was the truth in what he was saying there, and I'll tell you why, because that was out of character. The way he acted in the studio was totally out of character for him. He's normally quite a quiet, reserved guy. Jamie, no, he is.
He did the same thing with David Adler.
No, yeah, because he's playing the mind games. That's what he's saying. I'm talking about, yeah, so what I said was that it did have some sort of effect because Frazer did start the fight differently. So I think there's some truth in what he's saying there. He went out there purposely to get inside Frazer's head and behave the way that he did because he's not that guy.
Okay, well, is it more likely, and ask you boys, is it more likely that two things? Frazer thought he was above Jamie TKV and wanted to assert himself and was also fighting in front of his home crowd?
Yes.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I think he massive. I can't believe Frazer's performance, if I'm dead honest.
To tactics.
It's just the first 2 rounds I thought, okay, we're on here.
Yeah.
Jabs out, looks good, sound. And then the conditioning just went like that. Yeah. I'm thinking, why are you fighting this kid's fight?
He did get hit a couple of times as well, didn't he? And it does take it out of him, but he did. He got caught.
It was a physical fight as well.
He got
a very physical fight. Like
but we're talking about an Olympic bronze medalist. There's no way that he should be allowed to be dragged into that scenario.
That's the point. Like you just go like. So you're looking at that going, that's Frazer's limitations. They're showing his limitations because he shouldn't be allowed to be dragged into a fight like that with someone like Jamie. Jamie fought his fight.
Yeah.
He made it very physical and very hard because that's what he does. That's where he comes out strong. And he sucked the life out of Frazer early.
I agree. Who's to blame?
Yeah.
You've got a cornerman sitting there.
Exactly.
Who's been in the gym with you every day for the last 12 weeks, drilling you on tactics, and you get in, and there's nothing coming back. Like, why are you fighting this way? He was coming back, and the advice I was hearing in the corner was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's like this is the biggest fight of the kid's life now, live on BBC. If he wins this, he's back in the mix, so to speak, to step up to the next tier, which we've been speaking about in the first part of this show, and it's a big tier to be involved in. Yeah. But if you lose, you've done. And the tactics, I just didn't.
He started chasing more and more, and it was going against him. Every time he was trying that much harder, it was going against him.
Yeah, but he was throwing shots and then wrestling. And
Yeah.
And
that's the point.
With TKV,
that's the point.
He's from a wrestling background, who's strong as anything.
Yeah.
It baffled me.
TKV, the kebab fan, as I called him when I was watching it. Should the fight have been stopped? I know that's going to get me. I know it's going to get me. I know. Do you think the fight should have been stopped? I mean, I didn't like it around 11. I don't like it. I thought it should have been stopped.
I do, Simon. And more so why I do. The cornerman's saying to him, and I haven't got nothing written down, notes from what I was watching, I was going, wow, I'm going to pull you out. And Frazer just sitting there, doesn't say a word. And he goes, that's it, I'm pulling you out. And then Frazer mumbles one thing and he goes, okay, and puts the gum shield back in. Don't threaten him with it, just do it.
Boys, are we guilty of superimposing what we saw happen to Fabio Wardley? What Fabio Wardley did to him in that fight, and reminding ourselves that Frazer looked in trouble in this fight. If he hadn't have not had that big knockout against Fabio Wardley, would we be saying he's fighting for a British belt here? He's got to go all the way. He's in the 11th round.
Listen, I would have let it go. What I'm saying is that, to me, that fight shouldn't have been stopped. The only one that should have stopped it was the corner. But from the referee's point of view, he's got to let it go. Because it's one-sided. The corner should have pulled him out. The corner didn't pull him out. So from the referee's side of it, I was watching in that 12th round.
Up to that point.
It's down to the ref.
Right, up to that point. Did you believe? They're having that conversation at the end of the 11th, right? He's just been battered for 3 minutes.
I thought he was going to get stopped in 12th.
Right. I thought he was going to get stopped in the 11th, and fair play to him, he managed to get through it. Up to the point of that moment, had Frazer Clarke showed you anything in that fight where you thought to yourself, he's going to knock Jamie TKV out?
Absolutely not.
Because he was well behind on them cards.
Absolutely not. I think that
So would you have sent him out for three more minutes? On the wrist that he was about to get
What I was going to say, though,
me,
Adam, when has he ever shown signs of knocking anyone out late?
But
He's
for
not
me,
the biggest of punches.
If I'm in his corner, I'm pulling him out. Because I'm making that decision. I'm going, you live to fight another day, mate. You're totally gone. You're not going to do anything in the 12th round because it's been such a grueling fight. He looked gassed from round 7. So you go, it's down to the corner then, because from the fighter's point of view, he's going to go out. They're gladiators. That's what they're going to do.
What's the body language of him?
One word answers from all of you. I mean, I'm not going to answer this question because I've been nowhere near a ring. And Adam, you can decide whether you want to jump on that particular pedestal. Should Frazer retire now?
No.
I can't see anything else for him to do coming back from here, so for me, yes.
Adam, you want to get on board?
Do you know something? I'm going to reserve judgment because, like you say, I haven't fought, so I don't know what's going through his head.
He can't retire off the back of that loss. He should be
winning that level.
Absolutely, but in heavyweight terms, he's still relatively young enough to come again. That's the point.
Usually, yes, but after 2 big Olympic cycles with Anthony Joshua, Joe Joyce, and all them hard fights that he's had in the WSB, and all the fights in the amateurs. I watched Frazer Clarke in the ABA Championships in the national quarters, semis, finally got cut in the semis, cut needed about 7 or 8 stitches. The doctor put one in and said, "You're fighting tomorrow, just leave it there."
Yeah.
He's fought the next day and the cut's opened up again. The point I'm getting at is he's got miles on the clock from the amateurs as well.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see the lad get hurt. I think he's a good lad. I think he's a lovely lad. There's no one in boxing that dislikes him. And he's had a couple of stoppages now. Not stopping, by the way, beating that in the way of war.
No, I'm not going to get involved in that because I don't think it's my gift to say to a fighter what he should and shouldn't do. I'm guilty of doing these sort of things, and I don't want to because I think Frazer Clarke has to make his own mind up. Only he knows what he's got left in the tank. We should talk about who potentially is the next challenge opportunity for TKV. He talked about it himself, which was Dave Allen. It feels like if he fights Dave Allen, it'd be like clubbing Bambi if he were to beat him. But let's have a listen to Dave Allen talking about that potential fight.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. You know, the British title was always my dream. As I just said about Frazer there, trying to be world champion at this point in time. Oof, you know, it'd be very difficult. So my ambitions of being world champion, they went to the wayside a long time ago. But the British Championship, you know, that was a dream. My granddad, you know, my old man was a pro boxer. He always wanted to win the British title. So if I could win the British title, for me, that would be my world title. So I'm boxing February 21st in Nottingham with a win there. Hopefully we can entice Jeamie TKV to a packed out Sheffield Arena in the summer.
Very quickly, boys, if this fight is made, how does it play out? And does Dave Allen actually deserve to fight for the British title, given the fact he just lost in his last fight?
I think that, yeah, he's a worthy challenger for sure. How does the fight play out? It's a tough one for Dave because Jeamie TKV is a very awkward customer.
Difficult fight.
And he's got a good engine as well. So, you know, I think that Jeamie TKV would go start favourite coming off that win against Frazer Clarke, going into that one.
Boys?
Well, he's got a fight in February, so win that, and then maybe we can have another discussion as to whether he deserves it. But at the end of the day, we know that this is a business, not necessarily a sport. He's got the profile. And from a Jeamie TKV point of view, if I'm him, I'm calling for Dave Allen, because that's probably where the most amount of dough is for me right now.
That's the nail on the head. As he deserved it, no. Will he get it? It's a perfect fight for Jeamie TKV and for Dave Allen. It's a good fight.
Who wins it?
It's
based on what you've seen, it should be TKV that wins it, but Dave Allen, as you said, he's been getting himself in good shape recently, even though he lost his last fight. He was in better shape for that. If he can be in even better shape for the next one, then he's definitely got a chance.
Absolutely. What did everyone think, before we close off this subject matchup, at the BBC's coverage? I mean, I don't think Ben Shalom liked my idea that it was sort of Poundland. And I spoke to him earlier on. I didn't think it was great. No. I know that they're back in the block, but this is the state broadcaster. You only get one opportunity to create a first impression. What did you think of the whole coverage?
It was dated, mate. It looked like it was filmed on a potato. The presentation was old. Boxers have lost their identity. When they came into this sport, I was quite excited because they were like that younger brother, just annoying younger brother that was like trying to be the renegade and what have you, and didn't really conform to what everybody else was doing. And I was like, yeah, this could be fresh, this could be new. You don't need to be like Matchroom, you don't need to be like Queensberry. They've cracked that market. You do you. And then over the last 3 to 4 years, they kind of diluted what they are and morphed into like a really poor version of what the other two behemoths are. And that at the weekend, I was really disappointed in it because I wanted something new, I wanted something fresh, and it just felt a little bit... And okay, it doesn't help that the main event wasn't necessarily a firecracker, but just the presentation of it. Like even throughout the course of the week, mate, did you see it on the BBC? Did you see that fight getting pumped up throughout the course of the week? No. It just... I thought it felt massively flat.
How much is that down to the broadcaster, though? You know, what sort of input
does the
broadcaster have on, you know, the output of the show?
But if you're the promoter, crack the whip, man. Get on them. Get on them and say, listen, hang on a minute. We've got this deal. We've got this wonderful opportunity. We can do this. We can do that. Go with them. Go to them with content ideas or whatever it may be. What you were famous for originally. I thought it felt massively flat.
Talking about style, we saw the return of young Master Whittaker. By the way, Ben, I hope I haven't heard this right, that you don't want to come on a show with us. I hope I haven't heard that right. What do we make of the performance from Ben Whittaker? He came back in style, didn't he?
Yeah, Benjamin Gavazzi was a guy that come with an impressive record, but with no real substance to it.
Yep,
you know,
that's what I thought.
19 wins, against 1 loss, 13 KOs, but no substance. And look, it was a lose-lose really for Ben Whittaker going into this one, because for Gavazzi, you go, right, Ben Whittaker's got to get rid of him and got rid of him in style. And he'd done that. And he'd done it very, very early. And I thought it was an impressive performance. I thought he went out there and, established himself as one of the leading, prospects in the country right now, for sure. And he needed that after derailing against Liam Cameron.
Absolutely.
And getting it back on track now. You look at that there and go, you know what? That was really, really impressive. That was clinical, that finish. I liked it.
Were you, were you very impressed with Ben Whittaker in this fight? A lot's made of the fact that he's now got Andy Lee in his corner and what that's going to bring. I mean, maybe ask Joseph Parker what he thinks about having Andy Lee in his corner for that fight. But the fact is, Andy Lee's brought in with a reputation, does a great job most of the time, and is a great trainer. Were you impressed with this new version of Ben Whittaker? Not new.
Well, it is kind of new, isn't it? Well, impressed might be the wrong word because I know what I'm watching, but I'm excited now. The Ben Whittaker trend for me never left the station with Boxer. For whatever reason, he's got to take some of that blame. Boxer's got to take some of that blame. It just never went. Saturday night, I thought was absolutely perfect from start to finish. The ring walk is supposed to last longer than a fight against this fella. Yeah. You've got Dizzy Rascal giving it the big, and everybody's pumped up. You're all enjoying yourself. He gets in looking dead flashy, knocks the dude out dead quick. Brilliant. We know the level. I personally would go maybe another 2 or 3 of them just to keep pumping the name of Ben Whittaker. And I'm saying over the next 6 months, don't hang about with him. Don't let's wait 3 months, 4 months for another one. Go again. Just keep churning it out before you then start to talk about any real significant level. The likes of the Lyndon Arthurs, the Craig Richards, those types of characters. Just hold off for a second, because for me, I looked at Saturday night as the debut, I know he's had 10 pro fights, but that was the one where you're thinking, right, he's here now. Let's do a couple more of them before we start talking about something proper, maybe in the middle of next year.
It's an interesting take. I mean, tell you who does give us an interesting take all the time, and we've grown to love him for them, is Dave Allen on various subjects. Listen to him talking about Ben Whittaker.
If you look a few fights back, he got a draw with Liam Cameron, and he was really struggling in that fight. So, and Liam Cameron's a good fighter, but when you're talking about Benavidez, Benavidez, Bivol Beterbiev, he's not even in them conversations. No. You can maybe discuss Yard and Boatsing now, but he'll not be in with them anytime soon. I think he'll be boxing Aziz Richards, maybe the winner of that, maybe Lyndon Arthur for the European title. Mm-hmm. I'm not sold on him. I think he's an amazing talent, but as a pro, the first Cameron fight put a lot of questions in my mind, whether he has the goods for the pro game. But I guess we'll have to give him the benefit of the doubt for now after the other day's performance and see where he goes. He has 3.5 million followers on Instagram, I believe. You know, he's a big name. I think they want to bring massive boxing to the Midlands. You know, I think that's something that's not happened for a long time, if ever. And I think Eddie's hoping that Whittaker's going to be a superstar. You know, I think he has everything to be one. But will he be good enough? That is the question. He has everything, but possibly actually what he can do in the ring. I'm not sure. If I was a betting man, I don't believe he's going to make it to the very top. But we'll see soon, hopefully.
Inimitable Dave Allen style. I don't think he's having him. Are you, Paul? You've got a vested interest in this division. Maybe Callum is a long way away from Ben Whittaker. I think for Ben Whittaker's sake, he should be. Yeah. But are you having him?
I'm having him. I'm just not having him just yet. But that's fine. That's normal. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to push too fast. But Liam Cameron, who we had on recently, who's a good lad, a lovely lad, and a good fighter. Yep. That was a slip up for him, and he should have beat Liam Cameron in the first fight the way he did in the second fight. But the fact that he never. The method of the ending, the drama around the ending.
Was it a good thing for him though? Was that a good thing? Did it give him a boot up the arse? Take him away from being on catwalks?
For me, it raised more questions than answers.
Did it?
And I did a video on him last week saying he's still got a lot of boxes to tick for me. But I went over to him and I seen him in Istanbul after the second Cameron fight and I shook his hand and I said, I just want to say, I thought you handled it really well. I thought he showed a bit of a human side in him in the fact that he let his emotions out as well. He is a normal person in there. He's got to play the character. He's got to play the act. He started, so he's got to finish. But he's exciting, he's a talent, and I thought he looked great on Saturday night, albeit against limited opposition, but he looked really good.
I thought it was the kick up the arse that he needed against Liam Cameron, if I'm totally honest, because we always said that he's had star quality, and, you know, if he can keep delivering, he's going to go on and he will be the superstar of British boxing for sure. And I think that he is well back on track now.
The thing is,
he has that potential. Whether he's got that likability
or not. The thing is, though, Spence, this is my only worry with him. What happens when the next time a fight gets hard and it's going against you? It's not all your own way. That's the question.
Well, that's the question.
That's the only questions I've got about him.
To some extent, some of us were hoping, to some extent, that Liam Cameron was going to ask him those questions again in the second fight. Now, we could turn around and say that he didn't get a chance because Ben did what he should have done in the first fight and he should never have been asked those questions in the first fight.
I agree, but these type of opponents in Britain alone, Zach Parker, Brad Ray, Dan Aziz, Richards, Linden.
He's going to get asked.
They will, or they could, or they have the potential to ask them questions. If he wipes them out, he's definitely the real deal.
Absolutely.
But that adds to his excitement, though, doesn't it? Now, because we've got that question mark. You know, if it happens again, you know, how's he going to come
I'm
through
tuning
that?
in no matter
like
what,
I say, that might be the moulding of him. That, you know, that kick up the arse that he had against Liam Cameron.
Absolutely. And the reason I like him, the reason I like watching him is I could never have done that as long as a million years.
No, he's a
fight
star.
that way.
He's got bags
the
of charisma.
style's great to
He's got
watch.
bags
He's a
of charisma.
talented fighter.
Talking of great fighters and other great fights, we have seen the making of the light welterweight fight between Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson, which is a great fight. Before we get into it, let's listen to the two boys talking back in September.
I'll be honest, I'm going to be real honest. He was a lot better younger.
Oh, he was better when he was younger?
Especially at the JOs, Junior Olympics. You were whooping feet, yo.
All right. He was crazy with it.
Yeah, he was mad nice.
You don't think he developed enough power or something?
It's not about the power. I think that he just focusing too much on one arsenal.
What, the defense?
Yeah,
defense.
Yo, don't tell me too much, because I don't want you to say that you told me the game plan, you gave this out. I don't want no excuses.
But y'all know
don't
each
say
other.
too
Y'all already
much.
know
All right,
each other. Canelo Crawford.
No, I could give him that. I could tell him all the game plans and everything, because a true master in anything in boxing, the sport, you got to master yourself. You got to learn how to beat yourself. So if I give you all the tools on how to beat me, and I beat you,
I already know how to beat you, bro.
Nobody beat me.
I already know how to beat you.
All right, well, you guys tune in early
Easy.
2026.
Easy.
It's going down. Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, sugar and sweet. We're going to make it nice and pretty for you all.
This has a super fight written all over it, doesn't it, Adam? There was a period of time where Teofimo Lopez went missing for a little bit and people started to question who he may or may not fight. We saw him dominate Arnold Barbosa Jr. in such a way that perhaps we didn't expect him to be so convincing. He's a great fighter. Shakur Stevenson's a great fighter. This is a great fight, isn't it?
They need each other. Boxing needs it. In and around these weight divisions, you've got so many great names, especially over in the States, and they all just need to get it on in order to try and boost people's perception of what boxing is over in America. Lopez, when you look at his career, there's some performances along the way that do look a little bit flat, but I personally put that down to having jeopardy in the fight, where maybe he's overlooked whoever he's fighting. When he's gone in with Richard Comey, when he's gone in with Lomachenko, when he's gone in with Josh Taylor, you're seeing the very best versions of Teofimo Lopez. From a Shakur Stevenson point of view, we're talking about a generational great here. A guy that is going through the weight divisions, picking up the championship belts. He might not necessarily have the name. Maybe Oscar Valdez might be the biggest name that he's been in when he won that championship down a few weight divisions below. This fight, on paper, is an absolute super fight. There's no doubt about that. Wonderful way of starting 2026. I just really hope the styles mix, man, because they've both got a little bit of a tendency for being a bit tentative and having a little bit of a look and being a bit standoffish. I just hope that Teo chases it a little bit and makes it a scrap, and therefore we get fireworks in January.
Listen,
it could be a cracker.
I think it's the best fight in boxing to make right now. But like you say, this is for the boxing purists, this one, because you're going to be looking at stuff here. You're going to be looking at technical stuff that maybe people won't see. You know, like your average fan that just likes to see a good old scrap. Yeah, absolutely. It might fall into that sort of bracket because I think both guys have fallen off in the past.
Who wins it?
It's a tough one.
I think they're both gifted. I think they're both very, very gifted fighters, and the term special we don't use too much in boxing, especially if you've been around it for a while. But I think the pair of them as special fighters, I've always rated them massively. Shakur Stevens is one of my favourite fighters, and Lopez is one of them naturally gifted kids.
I think Shakur defensively is a little bit more sound than Teo, and therefore he might be able to win this on the back foot, on points.
Can I ask you a State of Nations question about, we seem to see a litany of lighter weight American fighters doing very well and dominating in their divisions, but we don't see that at the bigger weight classes. Why is that?
Money. I think in the heavyweight division, this is really a really interesting point.
Is it the other sports that are drawing them?
Yeah, I think they're all going to the NFL, they're going to the NBA. I think that has been the draw over, because of the collegiate system. Yeah, MMA as well, yeah. The collegiate system has kind of pushed people down certain paths, obviously, where the most amount of dough is. I think in the States, they've got a real job on their hands of getting those big lads, the 6'4" to the 6'9" athletes, to take up the sport of boxing and making it attractive for them when the NFL are offering them multi-million dollar contracts to come and be a linebacker or a defensive lineman. That's where the problem's been, I think, over the last 5 to 10 years.
Well, the fighters come from the grassroots, don't they? And if you look at the history of the sport and going into the Olympics, the Americans always dominated the Olympics, not just the lighter weights, but the heavier weights as well. And we looked just more recently, I think the last Olympics in France, they had 1 bronze medalist. They're not doing it. And so that's where it comes from, the grassroots. And I think that's where they need to get the interest back.
They should be doing it in the amateurs because it's 3-3s now. It's like the pros. It's more suited to the pros. And that's where the Americans were always at the best, when it was more like, sure, obviously you go right back to Ray Leonard, Holyfields, all them Olympic gold medalists all the way through. They were fighting like pros as amateurs, and then it was an easy transition to turn professional.
Speaking to Bomac about the kids that come into the gyms now, and he said you're not getting the kids that used to come into the gyms now. You're not getting the same volume of kids coming into the gyms now. He was hoping off the back of Terence Crawford in that area and boxing Canelo Alvarez that would sort of reignite something from somewhere to start getting these kids coming back into the gyms, because the gyms are just not as busy out there.
Let's go back 10 years and remind ourselves of what I think is one of the most significant achievements by a British fighter, up there with Donald Curry getting beaten by Lloyd Hannigan, which was Tyson Fury going over to Germany and beating Vladimir Klitschko. I think it opened up the landscape for a lot of other people to benefit from. Let's have a listen to Tyson Fury being as magnanimous as he always is.
Good morning, everybody. It's been a decade today, 10 years later, a full decade since I dethroned the long-reigning heavyweight champion of the world, Vladimir Klitschko. 28th of November 2015, on that night I said, today Tyson Fury goes down as a legend. That was before the fight. Never mind beating him and going on to do exactly what I did. Come on! I've been celebrating that every day, Vladimir, for 10 years. Thank you, Vlad, for making me a multi-millionaire, a very successful and a multi-time world champion. Get up there, you sucker!
10 years last Friday. I still think the piece of history that I will never lose from that is I'm going to lick that. But that's a different conversation entirely. Where do we all-time Batman comic outfit and that? Yeah. Where do we put that? I've just sort of built it up there as I think one of the best British outcomes from a fighter abroad. Where do you put it, Spence? I think it was a fabulous performance. I think Kell Brook beating Sean Porter was up there with one of those fights that doesn't get the credit that it should get. I think obviously I mentioned Lloyd Hannigan beating Donald Curry, which was never priced in. I was fortunate enough to go to that fight. This was a great performance, wasn't it?
Absolutely. You put it up there with that because of the dominance of the Klitschkos, and going over to Germany, Dusseldorf, to get that victory as well. The manner that he got that victory at a point deducted in the 11th round, you think, oh my God, are they going to rob him here? Because, it was a very one-sided fight. It was not a particularly great fight to watch, but a very one-sided fight. And, I think the Fury done incredible in that, but you thought, will it go his way? He got the decision. But for me, with Tyson Fury, I think his best career performance was coming back after that fight.
Against Deontay,
against Deontay, but no, I'm saying with the troubles that he had after that fight, the 3-year break that he had, coming back a couple of fights before going in with Deontay Wilder, that journey was incredible. But what a performance, and that will go down in history.
Granted. You worked that fight, Paul. When you were working it, were you backing? I mean, obviously we would be backing Fury to win because he's a British fighter. But in your mind's eye, did you think he was going to win that fight? Because I think a lot of people thought this is all day Klitschko, didn't they?
Yeah and not. So I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday. I was in Dusseldorf. It was the November of the same year that I'd just lost to Ward. I was contemplating retiring. They asked me my opinion, and I remember standing there in the middle of Germany thinking, well, I'm going to get another little dig in here. I said, I think he'll do enough, but I don't think he'll get the decision. So it was me, Amir Khan and Carl Froch. We were the three pundits. And like, what do you think? And Amir was like, I've got to say Fury trains in my gym. I'm like, Fury's going to win. He looked great after the fight. I said, I think Fury will do really well. Possibly do enough, but I don't think he's getting the decision within Germany. Yep. And then I went to Froch and he picked Klitschko. So after, I remember vividly, after the first round, seeing how well he come out, I had, I think, 20, 30 quid on the draw, on in-play betting. And I had a little bet on the draw while I was there. I thought, he's going to do well here. He's just not going to get the decision. But if every round's like that, and it's that clear, they can't rob him. But he got the decision. He did great. What a night for him. Unbelievable performance. And the rest, obviously, as they say, is history.
It was the scoring was the surprise. We know who won the fight, but you look at the history of German boxing and the fights that happened over there.
I'll just ask him.
That's why I was trying to get me the little point in.
That's what I'm saying.
It was a year later. I was thinking, like, I'm still bitter. I'm still very bitter.
Yeah, I think it's like you've just mentioned Lloyd Hannigan's performance against Donald Curry, which was sensational. That's mid-80s, yeah. So maybe I'm a little bit too young to jump all over that. All right, mate.
He was
Sorry.
there.
Yeah, I know he was. That's why I bring it up. The performance against Klitschko, for me, I think just edges out his performance against Deontay in the second fight. Just because you are breaking an era in Germany against traditional scoring. His performance that night, I think,
I'm not normally into the term, sorry to interrupt you, but the lineal champion, he was the main man.
He's absolutely
He
the main.
beat the main
That's why I highlight the Lloyd Honeck and Donald Curry fight, because he was the number one pound for pound fighter on the planet when he went away and did that. But you're talking, like you said, number one, main guy, 11 years reign, nobody's been able to break it,
off him in Germany.
and he outpointed him in Dusseldorf.
Did you think it was a good thing for boxing? Because I think to some extent,
it changed the current landscape.
It changed the landscape, but I don't think that was the highest point, with all due respect to Vitaly Klitschko, who I thought was very unlucky against Lennox Lewis, and ultimately Vladimir Klitschko. It wasn't the most illuminating period of heavyweight boxing. It was dull, wasn't it?
It was horrific. It was the most boring heavyweight era, well, of recent times. Whereas what happened that night, Tyson Fury goes and wins. Immediately the IBF stick the beaks in, don't they, and take the belt off him, chucks that in the bin. Charles Martin picks it up. Anthony Joshua era then picks that up, and then that reign starts to kick off. So that night changed the whole landscape of what we've now experienced over the last decade.
Right. Simon, I was talking to you about this last week in the year when I went to a Klitschko fight in Madison Square Garden because the press conference for mine and Andre Ward's fight was in New York. And when we went to the Klitschko, I think it was Jennings, I can't remember his first name. I'm walking I'm walking to go to the toilet in between like the 6 and 7 rounds. I fell asleep in the crowd. So you're right in what you're saying. It wasn't the most glorious period for the Klitschko as such, but he was still the main man, and Fury did unbelievable.
But it is absolutely right, and I make the same point. I've made it repeatedly, which Adam has made, which is the Fury win opens up a whole new generation of opportunities for other people, which other people rode into. It brought forward AJ, it brought forward Tyson Fury, it brought in Deontay Wilder, and it brought in the back end Oleksandr Usyk. It's a slightly disappointing, I don't mean disappointing, but can you imagine if Turki Al-Sheikh would have been on the scene at that time when this division was opened up by Fury's win, what kind of fights we would have seen amongst these guys?
You'd have seen Fury, AJ. You'd have definitely seen it.
They would have all boxed each other twice, and it would have been in their primes, and that's what we would have got there. I think we would have got an unbelievable era of heavyweight boxing. We're moving into a new era now, and you go, where are the characters? Yeah, we've got good fighters like Moses Atauma coming through, but where are the characters? I think we have to appreciate.
Never mind the characters. I was still fighting, and that money had to filter down to the lighter.
Exactly. Then economics. But do you look at this generation of fighters and say, look at the personality? I mean, Wilder was bomb squad, and it was box office when he used to do it. Anthony Joshua was the golden boy of British boxing. Fury was a revelation in terms of charisma, and Usyk just oozes class in terms of the statesman-like approach and brilliance in the ring. Do you worry that we've not got anything to follow that coming forward?
In the heavyweight division, that's why we were talking before about Ben Whittaker. I don't know how far Ben Whittaker's going to go, but because of that razzmatazz and that personality, you kind of jump on it a little bit, because that's the guy that is going to transcend into that commercial sector and that mainstream sector, whereas the heavyweight lads, they've got supreme talent. Most of the time it could be an all-time generational great. But does he have that thing that really connects with the person at home? I don't know.
This is why we should appreciate, I always say it about him, and I'm not kissing his ass, but we should appreciate Nazi Mamet so much for what he did.
But guys, also,
we won't see another one like him. We are seeing versions of, and people trying it and people failing miserably. Some people try it and they get close, and Ben Whittaker might be one that might get close. But his ability in the ring and his ability outside the ring were unquestionable.
We talk about Moses Atauma here, and does he have that ability to transcend? It's not just about that; it's about the dance partners. Where are they? That's what I'm saying. We had an era here.
That's my next question to wrap up this show. We've got a roster of fighters with Atauma in Daniel Dubois still because of the age that he's at and the belief that he'll come again. Fabio Wardley, Ajit Kabiel. Do we think that we are likely in the heavyweight division, just confined it to the heavyweights, to see the kind of performances and the kind of intrigue that we've been fortunate enough to see over the certainly last half a decade?
I think we got some great fights there with some great fighters, but are they the characters? Because I think that's
just confined it to the fights.
The fights are great fights. I think you put Kabiel in there, you put Moses Atauma in there, you look at those guys, Fabio Wardley, the toughness of him. I think there's a nice blend, a nice mix there. So the answer is yes. I think we've got the fighters there.
Yeah. Cool. So I was going to say, I'm thinking now of matchups. If you were to make a Wardley-Dubois fight, then you probably that would get people excited.
Absolutely.
You look at Moses Atauma and what he can offer
I
against
like
anybody.
Cabello, I like a lot as well.
Massively. Cabello, I mean, there's obviously Bakhtir Jalilov, who's a fantastic,
We've worked
fantastic
on
fighter.
Jalilov before.
Yeah,
He's a good fighter.
He's a very, very good fighter, southpaw.
The whole
big
point
lad.
in all of these fights, though, is we've got more chance of them happening now than we have in 5 years if the money closes
you're
down
right.
and dries up, or we did 10 years ago before the money, which is what we were obviously debating earlier. We've got more chance of seeing these fights happen if the promoters are willing to work together. Because listen, let's not forget how it was just before Teofimo or Shakur got involved in boxing.
Yeah.
They hated each other. They wouldn't work with each other.
That's
they
right.
wouldn't speak with each other. They were messing around about getting a pass into the ring on certain shows when they were on each other's shows.
Yeah.
So it's a lot better than it was
Agree,
then
mate.
now.
Agree.
Fellas, thank you very much. That's
Thank
it
you.
for episode 149. Thanks, Spencer. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Adam. Next week is episode 150, which if you divide it by 5, you get Spencer's IQ. We'll see you next week.